I find it often when I interview people that have their children removed that they were previously in foster care. Do you feel that the parents that have been in foster care as a child are targeted if they find themselves in an investigation?
Yeah, and I have the perfect example of this. Oh gosh, I represented this mom, and I'm not going to get into all the details of it, but it was a very sad situation. She had struggled with substance abuse. However, she worked really, really hard to get herself in a place of recovery, and they would not relent. And it honestly, and I've seen this happen. Makes me so angry. But if you do have a parent who's fragile, who's working really, really hard for recovery, it's almost like the DCS agency or CPS will continue the litigation with them and continue the battle with them to get them to fail, right? Because people who are struggling with addiction, if they get, when stress is too much for them, they end up, having problems again, right? They use again. So they had done that to her. She'd get better, and then they would just push her and say it's not good enough, or continue her trial, or keep her in chaos, or cut her visitation off. And so ultimately we get to the day of trial. And I finally, like literally, like the day of trial or the day before trial, had asked for the entire CPS file involving her. I did not know. She had not told me that she had been in foster care as a child. She hadn't told me that. And she was pitiful. She was just pitiful. And we get in trial, and they hand me this huge stack of CPS records, and I'm flipping through them as fast as I can while we're in the process of this trial. And I get to her records. And she was in CPS custody when she was like 15, 16 years old. And in those records, it talked about the mental health treatment that she needed. And then ultimately, they sent her home without treatment. And so, I mean, I said it right in the courtroom. I'm like, you know what? This has been, this mother was compromised from the very beginning as a parent when she was put in foster care and she did not receive the correct mental health treatment. So, yeah, so I've seen it, and I've had other cases where, the parent or the family's been involved in foster care. I mean, and you are tagged in the system, you're in the system forever. They can plug your name in there. They can plug Connie Reguli into their system with DCS, and they can populate with every case that I've ever represented somebody on. So yes, they know exactly
Yeah.
who you are if you've ever been involved with their system.
And I will say, I wouldn't, I don't know if I'd use the word targeting necessarily, but CPS agencies have tools to identify risk and safety factors in families called structured decision making tools. And a lot of states use an SDM criteria that includes prior placement in foster care as a risk factor.
Hmm.
And so naturally what happens is if let's say let's say they assess on 15 items, their scales on 15 items, and you are over 5 risk factors, then that moves your case up for higher scrutiny, right? So the system is built in a way in which people who have grown up in foster care or been in placement themselves uh, get extra scrutiny based on the structured decision making
I'm
tools.
so glad you say that, because I think that proves my point in that it's not working. Okay. If
Mhm.
this reminds me of the movie with the pre-crime unit, right? With, who was that? Who's the famous
Tom
Cruise,
Cruise.
right?
Tom
The
Cruise, yeah.
pre-crime unit. Okay. So just because you've been in foster care, you are subject to more scrutiny,
Mhm.
and you get an extra check mark in the box. That is, you just, I agree, that's what it is. And that just proves the point that they know it should be the opposite, right? If foster care works so well, if
Right.
you've been a child who's been through the foster care system, you should get a star by your name because you've been through this glorious system that's made you a better person. We gave you better parents. So therefore, you should be in a better place. So thank you for sharing that and being candid about that, because it's a pre-crime unit tactic, and it proves that it doesn't work.